Hello, folks, and welcome back. Yeah, I know. Not another Roman Cabanac story. I know certainly this story will trigger the DA trolls who have been going through my channel trying to attack me because I've criticized the Democratic Alliance. No, I've simply covered the news. If you've done something inappropriate, it's not on me, it's on you. Anyway, I missed this story a couple days ago. I ran one about News 24 yesterday, and it's Slow Racism Day after trying to recover from the Jan Bride debacle. But let's talk about this Daily Maverick story by Villani Ludidi. It was reporting another non-story in the Daily Maverick. Cabanac is refusing to resign, and he knows how slow the government moves in dealing with such cases. So he could be here for at least 6 months or longer, said a source within the department. Well, of course he can be there. How stupid are these journalists who, only a month after I gave that analysis and made that argument, finally catch on? But folks, it appears they didn't even catch on of their own accord, but rather duplicitous snakes betraying their oath of office or party hacks turned them on to this non-story. While the matter drags on, Cabanac remains entitled to his salary and the benefits that come with the position. On his ex-bio, Cabanac still has his title as Chief of Staff, Minister of Agriculture. And why not? He's a government employee, and the ANC has made it difficult to sack government employees, particularly when they've committed no offense. Steenhuisen's appointment of the controversial podcaster in August sparked consternation within the DA and concerns among long-standing DA supporters. Podcaster? Roman Cabanac is more of a journalist, or at least a broadcaster, than most of the clowns publishing the nonsense about him. And consternation with DA supporters? Well, this whole situation has caused a lot of people to abandon the DA. So let's be objective and point out that while it may cause concern within the party, it certainly cost the party dearly. Highly placed sources reveal that Steenhuisen and the Human Resources Department are exploring options to dismiss Cabanac by leveraging his reportedly incomplete law degree and failure to disclose that he was previously dismissed from a law firm. It remains unclear whether Cabanac has completed his legal articles. Now you see what Ludidi did here? He cites anonymous sources and does not even disclose their placement or access to such information. That makes his reporting nothing more than gossip. A genuine report would give some indication of the source's access and or placement without exposing who they are. But Ludidi makes no such effort in this story. Then he cleverly uses the correct legal language to undermine Roman Cabanac's credibility and his bona fides, before he admitted that there is no evidence thus far to support that claim. If there's no evidence and you cannot be bothered to indicate anything about your anonymous source, why include the comment about his degree? Unless, of course, the intent is character assassination. Then comes a rehash of Capitulating John's mea culpa, where Steenhuisen acts as if, number one, it's appropriate to ask Roman Cabanac to resign when he's not failed in any capacity. And number two, Steenhuisen's efforts to extricate himself from the imbroglio that he himself is responsible for putting himself in. I found it far too distracting from the work of my ministry and our government that he is the news story, rather than the work of the department. And I've asked him, therefore, whether he would consider stepping aside. That's what he said at a press conference in front of the media. And what was the response of journalists who are supposed to be reporting the news? Applause. So there you know exactly what's going on. It's not about whether Roman Cabanac did anything wrong. It's about counting coup in the dishonest legacy media, who applauded that statement. And too distracting? That's strange. John Steenhuisen, you know exactly who Roman Cabanac is and who he was. What exactly prompted you to hire him in the first place? In hindsight, there should have been a little bit more due diligence done. In hindsight, there should have been greater foresight. But in an environment of a meteor shower coming in after an election, going straight into an intense negotiation and having an imperative to start performing and doing your duties, I think one should be forgiven slightly for some of the mistakes that we do get made along the way. More due diligence? Roman Cabanac is employed by the people of South Africa. If the government's hiring process is inadequate, then that is the news story. A meteor shower? So you're saying you had no idea the Democratic Alliance would enter a coalition with the African National Congress after the May 29th elections? Steenhuisen's comments beg your imagination. In November of 2021, I predicted the African National Congress would get between 38 and 42% of the vote in 2024. Even the majority of South African political analysts finally came around to my position by March of this year. Are we supposed to seriously believe that Steenhuisen, leader of a major party, did not have any clue that he would be a minister or deputy president in a coalition government? And so he had no plans to hire a chief of staff? Yeah, sorry, I'm not buying that one. So who is going to accept that the man who sought to unseat the ANC was so unprepared as to not have a candidate for chief of staff in the new government? Folks, can I interest you in some beachfront property in Uppington? Oh my goodness. And having an imperative to start performing and doing your duties, I think one could be forgiven slightly for some of the mistakes that do get made along the way. What mistake, John? How did Roman Cabanac fail as chief of staff? The answer is that he didn't fail. If anyone's failed, it was you, and it's an epic own goal. Now, I doubt that many objective South Africans even care about this fake media-generated controversy. Meanwhile, Julius Malema, Paul Mashatile, Cyril Ramaphosa, and Drs. William Kize sit in Parliament, sucking down huge salaries in spite of actual alleged egregious conduct. Charity McCord, media manager to the Democratic Alliance federal leader, said she was not aware of Cabanac refusing to resign and did not comment on whether he requested a payout before he stepped down from the cushy position. The HR process is underway and will be finalized in due course. Let's allow the process to be finalized. So there, finally, we have an actual named source with placement and access who says there's nothing to the story. So why is Daily Maverick running the story? Was it another slow racism day over at the Daily Maverick? The story continues. DA members vindicated. Insiders close to Steenhuisen have raised concerns about the appointment of the relatively unknown Cabanac, who is not widely recognized within DA circles. Well, why should Roman Cabanac be widely recognized within DA circles? First off, Cabanac is a government employee, not a Democratic Alliance employee, so it's not even relevant. Second, that statement is a bull-faced lie. Roman Cabanac is very well known within the DA. He produced Tea with Helen, ran the wildly popular and listened to Renegade Reports, and has amassed tens of millions of views on YouTube alone with the Morning Shot program. He obviously has personal relationships with both Helen Zille and John Steenhuisen. Notably, they said Steenhuisen had not appeared on Cabanac's YouTube channel or podcast for an interview, and the invitation only came just before the elections, prompting questions within the party. Some DA members have speculated about whether Steenhuisen knew Cabanac well or if external influences played a role in securing his appointment. External influences? Some DA members have speculated. What are you, the National Enquirer? Or are you a newspaper? Speculation. Okay, we'll come back to speculation. The DA spends a lot of money developing young people for these positions through the DA's leadership program, and most of these ministers didn't take any graduates from the program, one unnamed source said. So the DA thinks the party is entitled to a patronage hire for loyal DA members. It's a government job, folks. DA members should be working in the private sector, not being groomed for cater hiring. Which raises the question, is this the Democratic Alliance or is it the ANC? Is this cater deployment? Sounds like it. Sounds like that's what they want. Well, since the Daily Maverick and Villani Ludidi like to print speculation, I guess I'm allowed to give it a whirl myself. So here we go. All right, so strictly speculating, the Cabanac and Renaldo Gouws episodes are entirely fabricated matters. No, I'm not stating that they have not done anything controversial in the South African context. Renaldo's use of the word that cannot be spoken, Voldemort, 15 years ago did happen, only not in the context that the IOL reported. And yes, Roman is quite cheeky, pushing the envelope in his prior affectation. What I'm saying is that both of them made enemies within the Democratic Alliance and in the failing legacy media houses of South Africa. Renaldo was far too popular for an upstart Bodiki from the Eastern Cape, fond of stary stumpies and sporting a man bun. Unaccomplished DA senior leaders never liked his relationship with and access to Helen Zille, so he had to go. Additionally, Gouws' coverage of Mama Joy's free ride at taxpayer expense also likely made him some powerful enemies in the past several months. Now, folks who facilitate corruption do not like being exposed. Speaking of the Mama Joy story. Roman Cabanac has unreservedly poked politicians, especially within the DA, in the eye with his pointed commentary and jokes that no doubt have made him plenty of Democratic Alliance enemies. Roman also played a role in exposing the hypocrisy of legacy media operations and pinched many of their viewers and subscribers for himself over at Morning Shot. The Daily Maverick, IOL, and News 24 may like using demeaning terms like podbro or calling him a podcaster rather than a journalist or political commentator, but make no mistake, they're very unhappy about his commentary prior to August 1st. But now they can exact revenge. Now that he's a government employee, Roman can no longer go on air and caustically castigate the very folks seeking their revenge from within media houses. There certainly is a degree of revenge going on by penis envy legacy media in play in both the Gouws and especially in the Roman Cabanac stories. So why am I covering this? Because media houses should not be allowed to get away with speculation, unnamed sources, and fantasy stories. Now, there very well may be a degree of truth, and in fact, it may very well be the truth that, in fact, there's an effort underway to remove Roman from government. But the reality here is that the entire situation is fabricated, it's false, and the same thing with Renaldo Gouws. Renaldo Gouws did nothing wrong in government. He violated nothing. He was never investigated by the government for anything. It's all a fictional story on a video that previously had been aired for 3 years, removed, played on a news investigation report about South African young YouTubers in 2012, and then exposed when someone tried to blackmail him again in 2019. It was brought to the public's attention. It was discussed. It was dismissed. There was nothing to it. But on the day that Renaldo Gouws is sworn in as a member of parliament, he gets 55 minutes while being sworn in to respond to a journalist demand that he answer questions about a video which has not been shown to him and he cannot speak for. And in the case of Roman Cabanac, the media, which is so switched on, took 3 weeks before they even knew the guy worked at the Ministry of Agriculture. Well, I'm an American. I figured that out by August 1st. Oh my goodness. That's why I'm covering this story. These people shouldn't be allowed to get away with this fake news generated controversy. And what's it all about? Dividing South Africans? Maintaining the status quo? I don't know. What do you think? Feel free to leave a comment behind. Cheers, folks.